जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी। गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन। यमुना तीरवनचारी। यमुना तीरवनचारी। जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी। गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन। यमुना तीरवनचारी। यमुना तीरवनचारी। जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधवा कुंज बिहारी। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे। हरे रामा राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, and wishing all the devotees who have come today on a very, very Krishna conscious Sunday. I'm sure all of you have got a lot of services that you will be engaging in today over the weekend, especially. It gives us a unique opportunity to get into Krishna consciousness and be as close as we can, thinking, feeling, and willing for the Lord. I will be continuing with the Srimad Bhagavatam reading of the 5th canto, 5th chapter. Yesterday, we had started chapter number 5 of Canto 5 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Deepa Mataji had, she has taken us through the first 15 verses of the chapter. So today I will be starting off with verse number 16. But before that, first let's start off by, as usual, we seek permission from the parampara to discuss the spiritual subjects. Let's offer the prayers first. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurum Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagarjatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sagana Lalitasa Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Please recite along with me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudherayet. Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistike. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha.
Janabhaya Nama Pankajamaline Nama
Namo Pankajanetraya Namo Pankajangrihi Namo
Mahavadaya Krishna Prema Pradayate
Pradayate
Krishna
Krishna
Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Namine
Namini
Gauratvishe
Gauratvishe
Namo
Namaha
Brahmanya
Namo
Devaya
Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana
Hitaya
Hitaya
Janaditaya
Jagatritaya
Krishnaya
Krishnaya
Govindaya
Govindaya
Namo
Namo
Namaha
Namaha
Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti
Srimati Bhakti
Vedanta
Vedanta
Swami Niti
Swami
Namine
Namini
Namaste
Namaste
Saraswate
Saraswati
Deve
Devi
Gauravani
Gauravani
Pracharine
Pracharine
Nirvishesha
Nirvishesha
Shunyavadi
Sunyavadi
Paschate
Pasyatya
Deshatarine
Desatarine
Jai Shri
Namo
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu
Prabhu
Nityananda
Nityananda
Shri
Sri
Advaita
Advaita
Gadadhara
Gadadhara
Shri Vasadi
Srivasati
Gaura
Gaura
Bhakta
Bhakta Vrinda
Vrinda Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna Krishna
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna
Hare
Hare Hare
Hare Hare
Hare
Rama
Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्येश्वरं मम पवित्रो वा सर्वावस्थं गतोऽपि वा श्रीकाङ्क्षं सभयामि श्रीविष्णु हरे कृष्णा all the
Hare
Mataji
Krishna Prabhuji Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. We'll start, but before I start, I just want to also do a quick recap of the fifth chapter from where Nidipa Mataji started, so that we can ensure that we have the continuity. I don't see the share screen. No, share screen is here. So if you see it, actually there are quite a few different sections in the chapter 5 of Canto 5. In the first three verses, we read about what is human life meant for. From verse 4 to 6, there's the ending the transmigration cycle. Then we heard about cutting through those knots of illusion, and then from verse 10 to 14, the process to attain liberation. Today we'll be covering the obligations of the leader, the Lord and his devotee in one family, the stories of Brahmanas, and then Lord Rishabhadev handing over the throne to Bharat Maharaj, and then he becoming as an Avaduta. So he basically enthrones Bharata and leaves home. That's the summary of chapter 5. I'll quickly just also run through what we essentially covered. So Just 1 minute, hold on. Yeah. So the story starts with in Brahmavarta, where Rishabhadeva has started his instruct to his attentive sons, his 100 sons. And these sons are all also very, very advanced and evolved devotees. That is something that we need to keep in mind. And first, he emphasizes on the importance of human life. That a human life is not meant for sense gratification, but is meant for divine austerity. But as we see in today's modern life, we often end up forgetting this part. What is human life meant for? Why am I here? Who am I? I am the eternal servitor of God, and my constitutional position is to do bhakti to him. But we forget that, and because of those desires, we are getting trapped in body after body, material body after body, life after life. So he says that human body, one can give deliverance from fall down. But what happens is that it actually works in the other way. We end up getting in this cycle. So then he discusses the causes of liberation and bondage. He says that service to Mahatmas opens doors to liberations, while association with the wrong people opens doors to hellish conditions of life. Right, and he goes on to describe, who are the Mahatmas. There are two types of Mahatmas, and then that nicely segues into the qualities of the Mahatmas, the devotees who are superior, and what are their qualities. In verse 3, we read about the extraordinary qualities of the devotee. So 4 things, EDUI, edui, we can remember. The devotees are very eager to develop love for Lord, and that is their goal of life. They are disinterested in mingling with asatsanga, with people who are busy maintaining their bodies, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. They don't want to associate. They try and avoid such people. They are unattached to their houses, wives, children, friends, or wealth. They are interested in collecting enough money to keep body and soul together, or to remain in household life to spend their money on glorifying the Lord. So when you read this one part, unattached to their houses, wives, children, friends, or wealth, we should remind ourselves of Bhagavad Gita, verse 4.18. Karmanya karma yapashyet akarmani cha karma yah sa buddhiman manushyeshu sayukta kritsna karma kret, which is one who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is intelligent among men, and he is in the transcendental position, although engaged in all sorts of activities. So while we have to be unattached, it doesn't mean we should be indifferent. So that is what he says in the purport also, that this verse describes ideal household life. Devotees are detached, but they are not indifferent to the execution of their duties. So action in action. We do action, but not as karmis. We do action as yogis with that link to the Supreme, offering whatever we do to the Supreme Lord. And that nicely segues into the next section of the chapter, which is how to end this transmigration cycle. And earlier we had said, Rishabhadeva had stated that those persons who are attached to asatsanga, which is woman, will fall down. And here he laments for them. He says that sense gratification leads to perpetual transmigration. So as long as we are trying to satisfy our senses, we are creating more and more impressions in our mind. And those impressions are very strong. I have started or gotten into Krishna consciousness, Prabhuji and Mataji, around 3 years ago. Prior to that, I've got around 40, 43, 44 years of impressions that have been built. Right? So at the same time, I also see, for example, my daughter, much more younger, at a young age, even before she became even 9 years old or 8 years old, she has started at least a journey, but still she has got 8 years of impressions. And when I'm seeing in my class that I'm attending on Saturdays and Sundays, I'm seeing that, there are even younger children, 4 years, 3 years. These children are so lucky to have started so early. So we need to, as parents, as grihasthas, we have to first of all encourage our family members to come down this path, but also our children. Sometimes we need to be also a bit forceful, I believe. Wherein, because still they are around 15, 16, they are not able to make up their minds independently. Sometimes as parents, we need to nudge them. We need to nudge them so that they get onto the right path. Mute. I've muted everyone. Whenever somebody wants to speak up, please unmute yourself. So then the question comes, if sin leads to bondage, right, then shouldn't one do pious activities? And that's where Rishabhadev clarifies that both sin and piety lead to bondage. So here he's talking about karma. So therefore, we need to, I feel that link to the Supreme is not there, whether we are doing pious activities or impious activities, karma or vikarma, that will bring us back into this cycle of birth and death. And the mantra is, or the solution is, that we offer everything to the Supreme Lord. So, and so what does a devotee need to do to get free from those material desires? And how does the devotee cut through those knots of illusion? So here Rishabhadev talks about specifically Maithuna, and he talks about why sense gratification is useless with that focus on Maithuna, because he says that the male-female attraction, it is kind of a root cause for this whole cycle that we get into. It creates a double knot. And we will just read through it. He says the sexual attraction between male and female is called a double knot of hearts. It creates an attraction to body, home, property, children, relatives, and wealth. And in illusion, one thinks, I am this, aham ameti. This is mine. Janasya moho yam aham ameti. So then he gives us the answer. When does liberation take place? How is this not loosened? How is this not slackened? So slackening the knot, once you slacken the knot, then you give up the basic principle of aham ameti, and that leads you to liberation, and you start your journey back to Godhead. From verse 10 to 14, we read about the process of attaining liberations. What are the 25 different processes to destroy ahankara and attain liberation? I will not go through this. You can please refer to Subodhini for these 25 processes to destroy ahankara and attain liberation. And at the end, what is the result? By following these instructions, one will be freed from the ignorance of desire from fruitive activity, karma shayam. And the knot of the bondage in the heart, hridaya granthi bandham, this will be opened up. So, and he says, then one should give up this process also, because then you have got that once that knot is opened up. Now from verse 15 to 18, he goes into a different section now. So I'll now come back to Veda base from where we'll start reading. So we'll continue reading from verse 15 because it's the start of the section of the responsibilities of the leader. So I'll read the first translation and purport. From the next translation, I'll request one of the devotees to please unmute yourselves and read the translation. Some of the purports are short. We can read the purport in full. Most of the purports are short in this chapter. Some of the purports are highlighted in yellow. Where the sections are highlighted, please focus on the highlighted sections. So we'll try to complete the full chapter over the next 1 hour, 15 minutes. So I'll start with text number 15. I'll be reading, most of these verses are in prose format, so I will not read the transliteration of the verse itself, but I will read the translation by Srila Prabhupada, and the purports we'll read that. Some verses we'll read the verse itself also, like for example, verse 18, which is an important verse. Text 15. So, if one is serious about going back home, back to Godhead, he must consider the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the summum bonum and chief aim of life. If he is a father instructing his sons, a spiritual master instructing his disciples, or a king instructing his citizens, he must instruct them as I have advised. Without being angry, he should continue giving instructions, even if his disciple, son, or citizen is sometimes unable to follow his order. Ignorant people who engage in pious and impious activities should be engaged in devotional service by all means. They should always avoid fruitive activity. If one puts into the bondage of karmic activity his disciple, son, or citizen who is bereft of transcendental vision, how will one profit? It is like leading a blind man to a dark well and causing him to fall in. So here, in the purport, we see that Srila Prabhupada is referring to Bhagavad Gita, verse number 3.26. Na buddhi bedam janayet ajnanam karma sanginam joshayet sarva karmani vidvan yukta samacharan. Let not the wise disrupt the minds of ignorant who are attached to fruitive action. They should be encouraged not to refrain from work, but to work in the spirit of devotion. So, in reference to this verse, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Rishabhadeva, so far he has described the qualities of the devotee and the process of cutting the knots of illusion before. Now he is describing how the teacher can attain the goal. And that's what it's meant for the yogi. So how can the teacher attain the goal? How should the teacher teach the students? And that's why this section is aptly titled by Gauranga Darshan Prabhu, The Responsibilities of the Leader. And the key line that here we need to remember is the teacher should not become angry. Without becoming angry. Itham vimanyur anushishyat atagnan. He should continue giving instructions even if his disciple, son, or citizen is sometimes unable to follow his order. We'll now move to the next text. Text number 16. In text number 16, we'll read about the qualities of ignorant people. Can somebody read the translation, please? Any of the devotees, please unmute yourself and read the translation. Okay, I will.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji, please read.
Translation. Due to ignorance, the materialistic person does not know anything about his real self-interest, the auspicious path in life. He is simply bound to material enjoyment by lusty desires, and all his plans are made for this purpose. For temporary sense gratification, such a person creates a society of envy, and due to this mentality, he plunges into the ocean of suffering. Such a foolish person does not even know about this.
Mataji, please continue reading the purport also, Mataji.
Okay,
Short,
Prabhuji.
small purport, Mataji.
Yes, sure. Purport. The word nasta drishti, meaning one who has no eyes to see the future, is very significant in this verse. Life goes on from one body to another, and the activities performed in this life are enjoyed or suffered in the next life. If not later in this life, one who is unintelligent, who has no eyes to see the future, simply creates enmity and fights with others for sense gratification. As a result, one suffers in the next life, but due to being like a blind man, he continues to act in such a way that he suffers unlimitedly. Such a person is a muda, one who simply wastes his time and does not understand the Lord's devotional service as stated in Bhagavad Gita. Naham prakasha sarvasya yoga maya samanvrita mudoyam nibhajanati loko mam ajam avyayam. I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I am covered by my eternal creative potency, Yogamaya, and so the deluded world knows me not, who am unborn and infallible. In the Katha Upanishad, it is also stated, Avidyayam Antare Vartamana Swayam Dhira Panditam Manya Manaha. Although ignorant, people still go to another blind man for leadership. As a result, both are subjected to miserable conditions. The blind lead the blind into the ditch. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So we see these instances in our daily life, and these are the qualities of the ignorant people. They have lost sight of their own best interest, which is the auspicious path and the path of self-realization. They have forgotten about that. And it's very nicely said in the Bhagavad Gita that the Lord never manifests to the foolish and unintelligent. For them, I'm covered by my eternal creative potency, Yogamaya. And these people continue to drift in this misery world of Maya. And they are bound to material enjoyment. And why? That's because of their lusty desires. And they create a society of envy in exchange for very, very little happiness. So they might get those temporary small bits of happiness where they get elated, they go out in the night, they party and all. But then in the morning when they wake up again, they are in the same old state of misery. However, such fools, they will never realize that they are in this unending ocean of suffering. Move to the next verse, text number 17. Somebody, any devotee wants to read, Prabhuji or Mataji wants to read the translation. Please read 17 and also 18 also, and then the highlighted portion of the purport.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
If someone is ignorant and addicted to the path of samsara, how can one who is actually learned, merciful and advanced in spiritual knowledge engage him in fruitive activity and thus further entangle him in material existence? If a blind man is walking down the wrong path, how can a gentleman allow him to continue on his way to danger? How can he approve this method? No wise or kind man can allow this. Text 18. One who cannot deliver his dependents from the path of repeated birth and death should never become a spiritual master, a father, a husband, a mother, or a worshipable demigod. Shall I read the purport?
Yes, Mataji, you can read. If you want, you can read just the highlighted sections and the purport, Mataji, on the screen. Or you want to read the full purport also, please feel free to do. You can read.
Shall I read from the book? Okay.
Yes, Mataji, please read. This is a very important shloka, so please read it. Read it.
Purport. There are many spiritual masters, but Rishabhadeva advises that one should not become a spiritual master if he is unable to save his disciple from the path of birth and death. Unless one is a pure devotee of Krishna, he cannot save himself from the path of repeated birth and death. Tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mam yeti so Arjuna. One can stop birth and death only by returning home back to Godhead. However, who can go back to Godhead unless he understands the Supreme Lord is truth? In truth, Janma Karma cha me divyam evam yog eti tatvataha. We have many instances in history illustrating Rishabhadev's instructions. Shukacharya was rejected by Bali Maharaja due to his inability to save Bali Maharaja from the path of repeated birth and death. Shukacharya was not a pure devotee. He was more Shukracharya was not a pure devotee. He was more or less inclined to fruitive activity, and he objected when Bali Maharaja promised to give everything to Lord Vishnu. Actually, one is supposed to give everything to the Lord because everything belongs to the Lord. Consequently, the Supreme Lord advises in Bhagavad Gita 9.27, Yat karoshi yad ashnashi yad juhoshi dadati yat Yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurushva mad arpanam. O son of Kunti, all that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer, and give away, as well as all austerities that you may perform, should be done as an offering unto me. This is bhakti. Unless one is devoted, he cannot give everything to the Supreme Lord. Unless one can do so, he cannot become a spiritual master, husband, father, or mother. Similarly, the wives of the Brahmanas who were performing sacrifices gave up their relatives just to satisfy Krishna. This is an example of a wife rejecting a husband who cannot deliver her from the impending dangers of birth and death. Similarly, Prahlad Maharaja rejected his father and Bharat Maharaja rejected his mother, Janani Sasyat. Sasit. The word Daivam indicates a demigod or one who accepts worship from a dependent. Ordinarily, the spiritual master, husband, father, mother, or superior relative accepts worship from an inferior relative. But here Rishabdeva forbids this. First, the father, spiritual master, or husband must be able to release the dependent from repeated birth and death. If he cannot do this, he plunges himself into the ocean of reproachment for his unlawful activities. Everyone should be very responsible and take charge of his dependents, just as a spiritual master takes charge of his disciple or a father takes charge of his son. All these responsibilities cannot be discharged honestly unless one can save the dependent from repeated birth and death. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. So this is a very important, shloka saying that when one should not become a superior, one who cannot deliver his dependents from the path of repeated birth and death should never become a spiritual master, a father, a husband, a mother, or a worshipable demigod. In the recent past, we have got some incidents actually which have been there in the news. I've been reading one news that came to me was this thing in the US. We see a lot of these incidents of children picking up arms or guns and they are going into schools and shooting and they are not even adults. Yeah, some are able to lay their hands on the guns and then these crimes are happening. Recently, there was this shooting that happened where 4 children died because of that. And the kid who actually shot, he's not an adult himself, but he's having a very disturbed childhood. And it so happens that his father got him the gun, and both the parents, they seem to have never been concerned about the child, and they were indulging in all abnormal activities. And then you see the child and what path the child has gone, and now the child is serving a life sentence. So unfortunate. So and it's a great reminder for all of us that we all have a responsibility. In our satsanga, most of us are all grahasthas with families, and we have family with kids. Many of us have children. Most of us have children. So I think, and that's where our responsibilities are going beyond. So we need to keep reminding ourselves that if we cannot deliver our dependents from the path of repeated birth and death, we are not doing our job. And for a dependent also, you can reject such a teacher. It's not, and you never not incur a sin, because a true guardian is one who delivers a student from bondage. If you can't deliver, then don't take up that responsibility. So I'll read the shloka because this is an important shloka. I'll read it. Gurur na sasyat svajano na sasyat pita na sasyat janani na sasyat daivam na tatsyan na patischa sasyan namo chayedya samupeta mrityum. So here Prabhupada in his purport, he has given one example of where the guru has been rejected. Gurur na sasyat. That is, you see the subordinate is Bali Maharaj and the superior is Shukracharya. So Shukracharya was his spiritual master, but Bali Maharaj rejected him. Then you have Swajano na sasyat, where and here, this example I'm taking now from Subodhini. If you have it, you can refer to it. There's a very nice table there, where the Swajana is relative. So Vibhishana rejected Ravana. And then you have Pita. Pita, again here the example has been given by Prabhupada in his purport. Prahlad Maharaj rejected Hiranyakashipu. And then rejection of mother, Janani. So this Bharata Maharaj refers to Bharata from Ramayana. Bharata rejected Kaikeyi. And then Daivam, rejection of worshipable deity or demigod. So Khatwanga rejected God Indra, Lord Indra. And then Patish Chasasyan is rejection of husband. Who rejected the husband? These are the wives of the Brahmanas. So they rejected the husbands. So hearing this, now the sons of Lord Rishabha might ask, where is the Lord to whom we should perform bhakti? And where is the devotee whom we should serve in order to attain bhakti? So, and there, that's where Rishabhadev will declare that he is the Lord. So now we'll move to the next section, which is about the Lord and his devotees. We'll read from text 19. Hare Krishna, request one of the devotees to please read the translation and the highlighted section of the purport.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, Giriraj Prabhu ki jai.
Translation, right, Prabhu? Translation, right?
From translation and then the highlighted section of the purport, Prabhu.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhu,
You are able to see, Prabhu?
your screen, I mean.
Okay. Sorry. Is it visible now?
Visible, thoda font size increase करो browser में.
अच्छा प्रभु 1 minute. 1 minute मैं करता हूँ. Just let me disconnect my some VPN connection is on Prabhu, my office VPN. दिख रहा प्रभु?
हाँ दिख रहा है. Text 20, right?
Text 19 Prabhu. From here, my transcendental body Satchidananda Vigraha.
Right. Yes. Thank you. My
Yes.
transcendental body, Satchidananda Vigraha, looks exactly like a human form, but it is not a material human body. It is inconceivable. I am not forced by nature to accept a particular type of body. I take on a body by my own sweet will. My heart is also spiritual, and I always think of the welfare of my devotees. Therefore, within my heart can be found the process of devotional service, which is meant for the devotees. Far from my heart have I abandoned irreligion, adharma, and non-devotional activities. They do not appeal to me. Due to all these transcendental qualities, people generally pray to me as Rishabhadeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the best of all living entities. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Related one. For a materialistic person, the completely spiritual body is inconceivable. We have to accept the version of the Vedas when our experimental perception cannot be understand a subject. As stated in Brahma Samhita, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. The Supreme Lord has a body with form, but the body is not composed of material elements. It is made of spiritual bliss, eternity. That's correct. No, yeah. It is made of spiritual bliss, eternity, and living force. By the inconceivable energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord can appear before us in his original spiritual body. But because we have no experience of the spiritual body, we are sometimes bewildered and see the form of the Lord as material. In Bhagavad Gita 9.11 it is said, avajananti mamuda manushim tanuvashritam param bhavamajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that be. In the spiritual world, in the spiritual world, everyone has a spiritual body. There is no conception of material existence there. In the spiritual world, there is only service and the receiving of service. There is only sevya, seva, and sevaka is there. Yeah. The person served, the process of service, and the servant. Wonderful. There is only sevya, seva, and sevaka. The person served, the process of service, and the servant. Lord Rishabhadeva states that his heart is composed of dharma. Dharma is explained in Bhagavad Gita 18.66. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. In the spiritual world, every living entity is surrendered to the Supreme Lord and is completely on the spiritual platform. Being the Supreme, the Lord is called Shabha, the best. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. It's a beautiful purport. This one is a very nice purport, and where we are reading about Lord Rishabha's qualities. And it's very interesting, we forget who we are, and we start associating ourselves with the material conception of life, where we start believing. Are we all in that consciousness, Prabhujis and Matajis, that actually we don't, in our original self, we should be having a form which is spiritual, not material. But it's because of those desires, we have now got stuck in this body, birth after birth. We are now going in cycles in this material body entrapped. And now we are not able to, we have completely, because we have got so many impressions over so many millions of life, we have forgotten who we are, what is our constitutional position, and therefore we are not able to see that connection to that Lord also. So Jiva Goswami says that Rishabhadev is an Avesha avatar of the Lord. So Rishabhadeva is an Avesha avatar. What is an Avesha avatar? So when Krishna pervades the living being with a portion of his opulence, can be his energy or his knowledge, then that avatar is called an Avesha avatar. And there are two types of Avesha avatars. The first one is a Bhagavad Avesha avatar. So this allows the human being to directly identify himself as the Lord. So here in this case, Lord Rishabhadev is proclaiming himself as the Supreme Lord, right? He's calling himself as the Supreme Lord. That is the Bhagavad Avesha avatar. And the second type of Avesha avatar is the Bhagavad Shakti Avesha avatar, where the human being identifies himself as a devotee. Now, can somebody, they don't proclaim themselves as the Lord. They are an avatar of the Lord, but they don't proclaim themselves as the Lord. Can someone give some examples? Anyone can give an example of a Bhagavad Shakti Avesha avatar of the Lord? So you have Narada Muni, you have the four Kumaras. They are examples of.
Yes.
Yes.
Also
Yeah. Correct, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. So all Avesha avatars will be in the form of living beings like this, as we will see them. So when Rishabhadev is now speaking, you might ask one thing again, why is he proclaiming himself as Lord here? Is this pride out here? What is your view, Mataji? Vanilla Mataji. Is that pride speaking? Is he speaking it out of pride? Hare Krishna. Okay, so he is not speaking this out of pride. but he's actually speaking this out of compassion. And he's saying here that if you look at this line out here, he's saying that Lord Rishabhadev states that his heart is composed of dharma. So this is now we'll continue reading. Now we'll go to verse 20. Just 1 minute, I'm just checking my notes. I've got one more point here. Just 1 minute, probably. He says that far from my heart have I abandoned irreligion, adharma, and non-devotional activities. They do not appeal to me. So this is out of compassion. It is not out of pride. We'll move to text number 20. Request one of the devotees to kindly read the translation and the highlighted part of the purport. Hare Krishna. Text 20. Okay, I will read it. Translation. My dear boys, you are all born of my heart, which is the seat of all spiritual qualities. Therefore, you should not be like materialistic and envious men. You should accept your eldest brother, Bharata, who is exalted in devotional service. If you engage yourselves in Bharata's service, your service to him will include my service, and you will rule the citizens automatically. So, in this, Prabhupada in the purport, he writes that Rishabhadev's heart was always uncontaminated and spiritual. Consequently, all the sons born from the heart of Rishabhadev were spiritually inclined. So one may think that, who is somebody born from the heart? So it is not actually literally, it is a state of mind, the consciousness actually with which of the parents that flows into the children. So here all the 100 children of Rishabhadev had the consciousness of Rishabhadev. So now what Prabhupada further writes is that all the sons born from the heart of Rishabhadev were spiritually inclined. Nonetheless, Rishabhadev suggested that his eldest son was superior and he advised the others to serve him. The question may be asked, why one should be attached to family members? Or in the beginning, it was advised that one should not be attached to home and family. However, it is also advised, Mahiyasam Pada Rajobhisheka. One has to serve the Mahiyan, one who is very spiritually advanced. Mahat Sevam Dvaram Ahur Vimukte. By serving the Mahat, the exalted devotee, one's path for liberation is open. The family of Rishabhadev should not be compared to an ordinary materialistic family. Bharat Maharaj, Rishabhadev's eldest son, was specifically very, very exalted. For this reason, the other sons were advised to serve him for his pleasure. That was to be their duty. To protect Dharma, Paritranaya Sadhunam, the Lord always wants the ruler of the earth to be a devotee. Then everything goes on nicely for the benefit of everyone. As soon as a demon rules the earth, everything becomes chaotic. At the present moment, the world is inclined toward the democratic process, but the people in general are all contaminated by the modes of passion and ignorance. Consequently, they cannot select the right person to head the government. Serving a devotee means serving the Supreme Lord, or a devotee always represents the Lord. So, again, as I had said, what is the disposition of the person determines the nature of the children born. And that's where, Prabhupada also prescribes so many steps actually before actually thinking about having a child. So when he's asking Bharat Maharaj, he's asking his other sons to actually take shelter of Bharat Maharaj. That's because Bharat Maharaj is the most exalted, and service to the devotee is the cause of liberation. Now he's also asking them not to see Bharat with a material vision, but to worship him with pure intelligence. So not see him with a material vision as a brother, but the pure intelligence that he is a very, very exalted devotee, and he needs to be worshipped. So we should see our mind through the pure devotee and not see the pure devotee through our mind. Gauranga Darshan Prabhu's class, actually he has referred to Radhanath Swami Maharaj, and he said Rishabhadev is giving the most practical instruction over here. He's actually telling us, don't be envious and cooperate with Bharat. Be a servant of the servant over here. So when he's telling, follow Bharat, he's saying, don't see him with a material vision as a brother and become envious. Rather, cooperate with him and be a servant of the servant. What a beautiful instruction here. Let's keep that very close to our heart and in our minds. We'll move on to now the next section. So now Rishabhadev has told us about the Lord and his devotee as one family basically. Now, in order to teach how to serve Brahmanas, Lord Rishabha will establish them as the best amongst the all people. So he will now glorify the Brahmanas from verse number 21 to 25. So we'll read now verse 21 to 22. If somebody can unmute yourself, please. Any devotee wants to unmute yourself, Prabhuji and Mataji, please read the translation and the purport. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji.
Translation and purport both, na Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji, that's the highlighted part of the purport, read, Mataji.
Okay, ma'am. After two energies manifest spirit and dull matter, beings possessing living force, vegetables, grass, trees, and plants are superior to dull matter, stone, earth, etc. Superior to non-moving plants and vegetables are worms and snakes, which can move. Superior to worms and snakes are animals that have developed intelligence. Superior to animals are human beings, and superior to human beings are ghosts, because they have no material bodies. Superior to ghosts are the Gandharvas. Correct na, Prabhuji? Gandharvas. And
Yes,
superior to them are the Siddhas. Superior to Siddhas are the Kinneras. And superior to them are the Asuras. Superior to Asuras are the demigods. And of the demigods, Indra, the king of heaven, is supreme. Superior to Indra are the direct sons of Lord Brahma. Sons like King Daksha, and supreme among Brahma's sons is Lord Shiva. Since Lord Shiva is the son of Lord Brahma, Brahma is considered superior. But Brahma is also subordinate to me, the supreme personality of Godhead, because I am inclined to the Brahmanas. The Brahmanas are best of all. Purport. In this verse, the Brahmanas are given a position superior to that of the Supreme Lord. A Brahmana should be qualified with the 8 qualities mentioned in text 24, such as Shama, Dama, Satya, and Titiksha. The Brahmanas should always be worshipped, and under their guidance, the ruler should discharge his duty and rule the citizens. Unfortunately, in this age of Kali, the executive is not selected by very intelligent people, nor is he guided by qualified Brahmanas. Consequently, chaos results. The mass of people should be educated in Krishna consciousness, so that according to the democratic process, they can select a first class devotee like Bharata Maharaja to head the government. If the head of the state is headed by qualified Brahmanas, everything is completely perfect. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 10.8, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattah sarvam pravartate. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. There are two energies, material and spiritual, and both originally come from Krishna. Krishna is the supreme living being. Although it may be said that in the material world, a living force is generated from matter, it must be admitted that originally matter is generated from the supreme living being. Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam Katha Upanishad 2.2.13. The conclusion is that everything, both material and spiritual, is generated from the supreme being. The human being elevated enough to accept the Vedic principles the Vedic principles is superior. Among those who accept the Vedic principles, generally known as Varnashrama, presently known as the Hindu system, few actually follow these principles. Of those who actually follow the Vedic principles, most perform fruitive activity or pious activity for elevation to a high position. Manushyanam sahasreshu kassidyati siddhaye. Out of many attached to fruitive activity, one may be a jnani, that is, one philosophically inclined and superior to the karmis. Yatatam api siddhanam kaschin mam veti tattvataha. Out of many jnanis, one may be liberated from material bondage, and out of many millions of liberated jnanis, one may become a devotee of Krishna. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you very much, Mataji, for that. So here, the different gradations of the living entities and the superiority of the Brahmanas is being established. So in the verse itself, Rishabhadev is talking about how the different, first of all, everything is coming from Krishna, both animate and inanimate, right? So it's starting with the inanimate objects, moving to the immovable living entities, to the movable entities, animals, then the human beings, the pramatas, then the demigods, the devatas, asuras, the Gandharvas, Siddhas, Kinnaras, asuras, devatas, then demigods like Indra, Daksha, Shiva, then Brahma, then the Supreme Lord. But then he concludes by saying, because I'm inclined to the Brahmanas are the best of all. So in the Subodhini, Gauranga Darshan Prabhu is saying the Supreme Lord is called Brahmanya Deva. Brahmanas referred to here are qualified Brahmanas, not caste Brahmanas. That is something that we need to keep in mind. The other point also that we need to, he has mentioned, it's important, is Brahma is superior to Shiva because he is his father and he serves the Brahmanas. But Shiva is superior to Brahma because he is a Vaishnava and has superior powers. We'll move to now text 23. Translation. O respectful Brahmanas, as far as I am concerned, no one is equal or superior to the Brahmanas in this world. I do not find anyone comparable to them. When people know my motive after performing rituals according to the Vedic principles, they offer food to me with faith and love through the mouth of a Brahmana. When food is thus offered unto me, I eat it with full satisfaction. Indeed, I derive more pleasure from food offered in that way than from the food offered in the sacrificial fire. The purport Srila Prabhupada says, any civilization not based on Brahminical culture or guided by the Brahmanas is certainly a condemned civilization. Presently, human civilization is based on sense gratification, and consequently, more and more people are becoming addicted to different types of things. No one respects Brahminical culture. Demoniac civilization is attached to Ugra Karma. Horrible activities and big industries are created to satisfy unfathomable lusty desires. Consequently, the people are greatly harassed by governmental taxation. Guided by the Brahmanas, society should follow the principles of Bhagavad Gita. Let's continue reading. So, yeah, we'll continue reading now. Verse number next 24. Anybody wants to read? Please unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I'll read Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji.
Translation. The Vedas are my eternal transcendental sound incarnation. Therefore, the Vedas are Shabda
Shabda Brahma.
Brahma. In this world, the Brahmanas thoroughly study all Vedas, and because they assimilate the Vedic conclusions, they are also to be considered the Vedas personified. The Brahmanas are situated in the supreme transcendental mode of nature, Sattva Guna. Because of this, they are fixed in mind control, Shama, sense control, Dhamma, and truthfulness, Satya. They describe the Vedas in their original sense, and out of mercy, Anugraha, they preach the purpose of the Vedas to all conditioned souls. They practice penance, tapasya, and tolerance, titiksha, and they realize the position of the living entity and the Supreme Lord, Anubhava. These are the 8 qualifications of the Brahmanas. Therefore, among all living entities, no one is superior to the Brahmanas. Purport. Should I just read the highlighted
Just
part?
read the
Prabhuji?
highlighted section, Mataji.
A Brahmana is one who has assimilated the Vedic conclusions by practicing mind and sense control. A Brahmana should take pity on the people and preach Krishna consciousness in order to elevate them. Sri Krishna himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, personally descends into this universe from the spiritual kingdom to teach conditioned souls about the values of spiritual life. He tries to induce them to surrender unto him. Hare Krishna.
And that's how the Brahmanas also should conduct themselves. So Prabhupada says, similarly, the Brahmanas should do the same thing. So, what are the 8 qualities of the Brahmanas that are highlighted over here? So, one is Sattvam Paramam, which is they are situated in the purest Sattva Guna. Next one is Shama. Shama is they are fixed in mental control. Number 3, Dhamma, sense control. So, they have now able to control over their senses. Satya, that is they are truthful. So Anugraha is they are merciful in preaching the purpose of the Vedas. Tapasya is related to the austerity. So they are very, very austere. But not only that, they also show titiksha, which is they are very tolerant. And they have Anubhava. So they have realized this position of the Jiva and the Lord. So they know now very consciously about what is their position as a Jiva and of the Lord. So that then links to the next section of the next verse, which is that they have no material aspiration. So in 25, we'll read about that the Brahmanas have no material aspirations. Any devotee wants to please read the translation?
I will read.
Yes, Prabhuji, please. Hare Krishna, Sunil Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Translation. I am fully opulent, almighty, and superior to Lord Brahma and Indra, the king of the heavenly planets. I am also the bestower of all happiness obtained in the heavenly kingdom and by liberation. Nonetheless, the Brahmanas do not seek material comforts from me. They are very pure and do not want to possess anything. They simply engage in my devotional service. What is the need of their asking for material benefits from anyone else? Purport as well?
But the highlighted section you can read.
Highlighted section, yeah. The Brahmanas are always engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. Consequently, they have no material wants, nor do they possess material things. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains the position of pure Vaishnavas who are anxious to return home back to Godhead. Nishkirchansha Bhagavad Bhajana Mo Mukhyasa. Those who are actually want to return back to Godhead are
kinchana. That is, they have no desire for material comfort. Material opulence and sense gratification through the association of women are more dangerous than poison. Brahmanas who are pure, Vaishnavas, always engage in the Lord's service and are devoid of any desire for material gain. The Brahmanas do not worship demigods like Lord Brahma, Indra, or Lord Shiva for any material comfort. They do not even ask the Supreme Lord for material profit. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So you need to worship the Brahmanas. So what about other living entities? And that is what now, verse number 26 and 27, he'll talk about respecting all living entities and engaging in bhakti. So in verse 26, he'll say, respect everybody. And then in verse 27, he will say, there is no liberation without bhakti. So let's read text 26 now. My dear sons, you should not envy any living entity, be he moving or non-moving. Knowing that I am situated in them, you should offer respect to all of them at every moment. In this way, you offer respect to me. How often do we keep reminding ourselves this? Though we are aware of this, but do we remind ourselves sufficiently enough whenever we are looking at any living entity, being a moving, animate or inanimate, even a tree or a plant outside, knowing that, Bhagavan is situated in them. In the purport, Prabhupada says, according to the Vedic statement, Isha Vasyavasyam Idam Sarvam, the Supreme Lord is situated everywhere, and wherever he is situated is his temple. We even offer respects to a temple from a distant place, and all the living entities should similarly be offered respect. So we say, if you are not able to enter into the temple, we say take Gopuram Darshan and then we keep moving because in our busy lives. Everything has a relationship with God because God is situated everywhere. We need to keep that in mind. Everything is coming from the energy of the God. So they have a relationship with the God and he is situated everywhere. The humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. Equally, Samadarshanaha, with equal vision. Bhagavad Gita 5.18. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shunichaiva Shva Pakecha Pandita Samadarshina. So the Samadarshana equal vision should not be mistaken to mean that the individual is the same as the Supreme Lord. They are always distinct. That we need to keep in mind. Every individual person is different from the Supreme Lord. It is a mistake to equate the individual living entity with the Supreme Lord on the plea of Viviktadrik Samadrik. The Lord is always in an exalted position, even though he agrees to live everywhere. The one who has, and Madhavacharya states from the Padma Purana, so Madhavacharya was a propounder of the Dvaita philosophy, which is the, this actually is the distinction between the Jiva and the Bhagavan, moving away from that oneness, impersonal concept, right? So he says, one who has clear vision and who is devoid of envy can see that Supreme Lord is separate from all the living entities, although he is situated in every living entity. Clear vision, devoid of envy. Two things that you need to have. One who sees the living entity and the Supreme Lord as always distinct is very dear to the Lord. This is stated in the Padma Purana. Padma Purana also states, Yo Haresh Chaiva Jivanam Bheda Vakta Hare Priyaha. One who preaches that the living entities are separate from the Supreme Lord is very dear to Lord Vishnu. So one who sees the living entity and the Supreme Lord as distinct is very dear to the Lord, and one who preaches that the living entities are separate from the Supreme Lord is also very dear to Lord Vishnu. Now we'll move to text 27. Does someone want to read the text and the purport, highlighted section?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji,
Yes,
let me try, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu, please read.
Actually, I'm in the reading mode, but let me try, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Purport. Translation also, Prabhuji?
Translation and the purport, Prabhu, yes.
Okay, Prabhuji. The true activity of the sense organs, mind, sight, words, and all the knowledge gathering and working senses is to engage fully in my service. Unless his senses are thus engaged, a living entity cannot think of getting out of the great entanglement of material existence, which is exactly like Yamraja's stringent rope. Purport. As stated in Narada Purana, सर्वोपाधि विमुक्तम तत्पर्वतेन निर्मलम ऋषिकेन ऋषिकेशा सेवनम भक्ति रुच्यते. This is the conclusion of bhakti. All the time, Lord Rishabdeva has been stressing devotional service, and now he is concluding by saying that all the senses should be engaged in the Lord's service. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. So, here Rishabhadev in these two verses first said, respect everyone. Pandita Samadarshina, see everyone with equal vision. At the same time, see them distinct between the Lord and us, the Jiva is separate. We should also see that. But then he goes on to talk, says that there is no liberation without bhakti. Sarvopadi vinirmuktam tatparatvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhakti ruchyate. So we need to use all our sense organs in the service of the Lord. Next 28, the long verse. Sukadeva Goswami said, thus the great well-wisher of everyone, the Supreme Lord Rishabhadeva, instructed his own sons. Although they were perfectly educated and cultured, he instructed them just to set an example of how a father should instruct his sons before retiring from family life. Sannyasis who are no longer bound by fruitive activity and who have taken to devotional service after all their material desires have been vanquished also learn by these instructions. Lord Rishabhadeva instructed his 100 sons, of whom the eldest Bharata was a very, very advanced devotee and a follower of Vaishnavas. In order to rule the world, the Lord enthroned his eldest son on the royal seat. Thereafter, although still at home, Lord Rishabhadeva lived like a madman, naked and with disheveled hair. Then the Lord took the sacrificial fire within himself and he left Brahmavarta to tour the whole world. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, these instructions were meant for sannyasis who intend to become advanced devotees. Actually, the instructions given to Lord Rishabhadeva's sons were not exactly meant for his sons because they were already educated and highly advanced in knowledge. But they were actually meant for sannyasis who intend to become advanced devotees. Sannyasis must abide by Lord Rishabhadeva's instructions while on the path of devotional service. Lord Rishabhadeva retired from family life and lived like a naked madman, even while still with his family. So, in this now, he's also setting an example. Now, in Ajamila story in the 6th canto in 2nd chapter, I think it's there, said that if any king, there's a conversation, if I remember right, between the Vishnudutas, that is, any king who does not teach his citizens about respective duties according to Varna and Ashrama, but only extract taxes, will lose all his fortune. So here Rishabhadeva is setting an example. So basically now what he does is he's enthroning Bharata and he's going to now move on. Basically, he'll now live like a madman. And we'll now see why. So, about his renunciation and as an Avaduta, we read in text number 29.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji, Usha Mataji, please.
Yes, Prabhuji. 29. It's not visible.
Not visible, Mataji?
Yeah, now I can see him. Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. I have to read the sloka also, Prabhuji.
Yeah, just you can read the translation, Mataji.
Not sloka. Okay, Prabhuji.
If you want, you can read sloka also, Mataji. Up to you.
I'll try, Prabhuji. Jadandhamuka badhira पिशाचोन्मादकावद् अवधूतवेषो बिभास्यमानो बीजाननां गृहता मौनव्रतास तस्निं बभूव. Hare Krishna. Translation, Prabhuji. After accepting the feature of Avaduta, a great saintly person without material cares, Lord Rishabha passed through human society like a blind, deaf, and dumb man, an idle stone, a ghost, or a madman. Although people called him such names, he remained silent and did not speak to anyone. Purport. The word Avadhuta refers to one who does not care for social conventions, particularly the Varnasrama Dharma. However, such a person may be situated fully within himself and be satisfied with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, on whom he meditates. In other words, one who has surpassed the rules and regulations of Varnasrama Dharma is called Avadhuta. Such a person has already surpassed the clutches of Maya and he lives completely separate and independent. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. And so now Rishabhadev is living as an Avaduta. And what we'll see in the next verse, in verse 30, is he is indifferent. As he is living like this naked man, he is, people insult him and people do all abominable things actually. It's so offensive, he's the Supreme Lord. But he still remains indifferent to all the insults. So let's read this verse as well as the full purport. So this purport is a very, very important. It's a beautiful purport. That's why I highlighted the whole purport. I'll request someone to read the translation and the purport, or I'll just wait for a few seconds. Anyone is interested, please unmute yourself and please read it.
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah. Narottama Dasa Thakura says.
No, Mataji, first read the translation, Mataji.
Okay, sorry, Prabhuji. Yes. Rishabha, I will read, Prabhuji. Rishabha Deva began to tour through cities, villages, mines, countrysides, valleys, gardens, military camps, cow pens, the homes of cowherd men, transient hotels, hills, forests, and hermitages. Wherever he traveled, all had, I'm reading from phone, Prabhuji, elements surrounded him, just as flies surround the body of an elephant coming from a forest. He was always being threatened, beaten, urinated upon, and spat upon. Sometimes people threw stones, stool, and dust at him. And sometimes people passed foul air before him. Thus, people called him many bad names and gave him a great deal of trouble, but he did not care about this, for he understood that the body is simply meant for such an end. He was situated on the spiritual platform, and being in his spiritual glory, he did not care for all these material insults. In other words, he completely understood that matter and spirit are separate, and he had no bodily conception. Thus, without being angry at anyone, he walked through the whole world alone. Purport. Narottama Dasa Thakura says, Deha Smriti Nahi Yara, Samsara Bandhana Kahan Yara. When a person fully realizes that the material body and world are temporary, he is not concerned with pain and pleasures of the body, as Sri Krishna advises in Bhagavad Gita 2.14. Matra sparsatu kaunteya sitoshna sukha dukkha agama payano nitya tamas titikshava bharata. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception. O scion of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. As far as the Rishabhadeva is concerned, it has already been explained. Idam Sariram Mama Durvibhavyam. He did not at all possess a material body, and therefore he was tolerant of all the trouble offered to him by the bad elements in society. Consequently, he could tolerate people throwing stool and dust upon him and beating him. His body was transcendental, and consequently he did not at all suffer pain. He always situated in his spiritual bliss, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 18.61. Hare Krishna. Iswara Prabhuji, is there anyone to read, or shall I continue?
You can continue. It's a little bit letterized, Mataji.
Okay, Prabhuji. Iswara Sarvabhutanam Hridesa Arjuna. It is Juna. Hridesarjuna Tishtati Brahmayan Sarvabhutani Yantra Ruddhani Mayaya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of material energy. Since the Lord is situated in everyone's heart, he is in the heart of hogs and dogs also. If hogs and dogs in their material bodies live in filthy places, one should not think that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Godhead in his Paramatma feature also lives in a filthy place. Although Lord Rishabhadeva was maltreated by the bad elements of the world, he was not at all affected. Therefore, it is stated here, Swamahima Avasthanena. He was situated in his own glory. He was never saddened due to being insulted in the many ways described above. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji, for reading this. It was a beautiful purport by Srila Prabhupada. And we see, that even though people around him are ill-treating him and all, so even though still he still remains so calm. He never kind of reacts or anything over there. And he's staying in filth, in urine, in stool. The question, is does Rishabhadev have a temporary body? And Prabhupada says that he has a transcendental body. And this is also, Jiva Goswami has also said that we should not literally take it that Rishabhadev's body was temporary. He was giving us instructions through his conduct. And that the common people should not identify with the temporary body. His body has always been spiritual. That's what Prabhupada says. That, and we'll read in the later verses also, that how his body is also spiritual. It's an example is there. It's a very nice example. But as human beings, as out here as jivas, we get so caught up in our strong sense of aham ameti that we start identifying with this temporary body so much. Forget and throwing stool or urine on us. If even anyone raises an eyebrow on us, we start judging that person. We start venting out our anger sometimes, and we start overreacting. So and this is another extreme completely. Somebody's throwing urine, throwing stool at you, dust at you, beating you up. So here Rishabhadev is giving instructions through his conduct and trying to remind us that we are the spirit soul, we are not the body. We have to, and this is what we're reading this. Hopefully, it is regenerating that thinking in us that we are not. Keep reminding ourselves. Let's continue reading now the last few verses, last 5 verses. This will be quick now because here I'll read the translations and the purport. They're very short now. Now we'll see the description basically now describing about Rishabhadev's beauty as an Avaduta. So even though he's in that stage, we see about his beauty. So Lord Rishabhadev's hands, feet, and chest were very long, His shoulders, face, and limbs were all very delicate and symmetrically proportioned. His mouth was beautifully decorated with his natural smile, and he appeared all the more lovely with his reddish eyes spread wide like the petals of a newly grown lotus flower, covered with dew in the early morning. The irises of his eyes were so pleasing that they removed all the troubles of everyone who saw him. His forehead, ears, neck, nose, and all his other features were very beautiful. His gentle smile always made his face beautiful, so much so that he even attracted the hearts of married women. It was as though they had been pierced by arrows of Cupid. About his head was an abundance of curly, matted brown hair. His hair was disheveled because his body was dirty and not taken care of. He appeared as if he were haunted by a ghost. The purport Prabhupada says, although Lord Rishabhadev's body was very much neglected, his transcendental features were so attractive that even married women were attracted to him. His beauty and his dirtiness combined him to make his beautiful body appear as though it were haunted by a ghost. So we'll continue reading now text 32. When Lord Rishabhadeva saw that the general populace was very antagonistic to his execution of mystic yoga, he accepted the behavior of a python in order to counteract their opposition. Thus he stayed in one place and lay down. While lying down, he ate and drank, and he passed stool and urine and rolled in it. Indeed, he smeared his whole body with his own stool and urine so that opposing elements might not come and disturb him. Purport. According to one's destiny, one enjoys allotted happiness and distress. Even though one keeps himself in one place, this is the injunction of the Shastras. When one is spiritually situated, he may stay in one place and all his necessities will be supplied by the arrangement of the Supreme Controller. Unless one is a preacher, there is no need to travel all over the world. A person can stay in one place and execute devotional service suitably according to his time and circumstance. When Rishabhadeva saw that he was simply being disturbed by traveling throughout the world, he decided to lie down in one place like a python. Thus he ate, drank, and he passed stool and urine and smeared his body with them so that people would not disturb him. Text 33. So text 33, it's one may consider now, all this as quite disgusting, that he's lying in one place like Ajgar, like a python, and he's rolling in his own stool and urine. And yet for the Lord, it is transcendently blissful. So text 33 actually provides us that insight into this. What? Let's read this. Because Lord Rishabhadeva remained in that condition, the public did not disturb him. But no bad aroma emanated from his stool and urine. Quite the contrary, his stool and urine were so aromatic that they filled 80 miles of the countryside with a pleasant fragrance. So the next time somebody claims that he is God, you can ask him to prove it. Purport. From this, we can certainly assume that Lord Rishabhadeva was transcendentally blissful. His stool and urine was so completely different from material stool and urine that they were aromatic. That is also spiritual. Even in the material world, cow dung is accepted as purified and antiseptic. A person who keeps stacks of cow dung in one place, and it will not create a bad odor to disturb anyone. We can take it for granted that in the spiritual world, stool and urine are also pleasantly scented. Indeed, the entire atmosphere became very pleasant due to Rishabhadeva's stool and urine. Text 34. In this way, Lord Rishabhadeva followed the behavior of cows, deer, and crows. Sometimes he moved or walked, and sometimes he sat down in one place. Sometimes he lay down, behaving exactly like cows, deer, and crows. In that way, he ate, drank, and passed stool and urine and cheated the people in this way. Purport. Being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Rishabhadeva possessed a transcendental spiritual body. Since the general public could not appreciate his behavior and mystic yoga practice, they began to disturb him. To cheat them, he behaved like crows and deer. Last verse of the chapter, text 35, translation. So here we are going to see about that even though he was a Ashtasiddhis, he is not displaying his Ashtasiddhis. O King Parikshit, Just to show all the yogis, the mystic process, Lord Rishabhadeva, the plenary expansion of the Lord Krishna, performed wonderful activities. Actually, he was the master of liberation and was fully absorbed in transcendental bliss, which increased 1,000-fold. Lord Krishna, Vasudeva, the son of Vasudeva, is the original source of Lord Rishabhadev. There is no difference in their constitution, and consequently, Lord Rishabhadev awakened the loving symptoms of crying, laughing, and shivering. He was always absorbed in transcendental love. Due to this, all mystic powers automatically approached him, such as the ability to travel in outer space at the speed of mind, to appear and disappear, to enter the bodies of others, and to see things far, far away. Although he could do all this, he did not exercise these powers. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela 19.149, it is said, Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Ataiva Shanta Bhukti Mukti Siddhikami Sakali Ashanta. The word Shanta means completely peaceful. Unless all one's desires are fulfilled, one cannot be peaceful. Everyone is trying to fulfill his aspirations and desires, be they material or spiritual. Those in the material world are Ashanta, without peace, because they have so many desires to fulfill. The pure devotee, however, is without desire. Anya Bilashita Shunya. A pure devotee is completely free from all kinds of material desire. Karmis, on the other hand, are simply full of desires because they try to enjoy sense gratification. They are not peaceful in this life, nor the next, during the past, present, or future. Similarly, jnanis are always aspiring after liberation and trying to become one with the Supreme. Yogis are aspiring after many siddhis, powers, anima, lagima, prapti, etc. However, a devotee is not at all interested in these things because he is fully dependent on the mercy of Krishna. Krishna is Yogeshwara, the possessor of all mystic powers, siddhis, and he is Atma Rama, fully self-satisfied. The yoga siddhis are described in this verse. One can fly in outer space without the aid of a machine, and he can travel at the speed of mind. This means that as soon as a yogi desires to go somewhere within the universe or even beyond this universe, he can do so immediately. One cannot estimate the speed of mind, for within a second, the mind can go many millions of miles. Sometimes yogis enter into the bodies of other people and act as they desire when their bodies are not working properly. When the body becomes old, a perfect yogi can find a young, able body. Giving up his old body, the yogi can enter into the young body and act as helpless. Being a plenary expansion of Lord Vasudeva, Lord Rishabhadeva possessed all these mystic yoga powers, but he was satisfied with his devotional love of Krishna, which was evinced by the ecstatic symptoms such as crying, laughing, and shivering. Thus end the Bhakti Vedanta purports of the 5th canto, 5th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Lord Rishabhadeva's teachings to his sons. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. We can now, if any questions are there, Prabhujis or Matajis, please feel free to unmute yourself or ask.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much. So it's a short chapter, but I found this chapter to be very, very reflective, at least for me to reflect on. So please once again read through the purports. Thank you once again for this opportunity. Thank you, Lilananda Prabhu, for giving me this opportunity. And if I've committed any offense or made any mistakes, please forgive me for that. Thank you so much. We'll end the class.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। श्रील श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Krishna,
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji. Thank you so
Hare
much for
Krishna,
your time,
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
Pranam.
Dandavat pranam.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Dandavata.
हरे कृष्ण। धन्यवाद प्रभु। धन्यवाद। हरे कृष्ण।
Thank you all for joining. I'm ending the session here. Thank you. Hare Krishna.